Alrighty. We have another daily recap. Oh damn, there's a lot on the chart here. I'm just gonna quickly do this, to be honest. Alright, what happened yesterday? Or we can call it today when we're speaking of it, for Friday, July 17th. Well, we finally hit one of the ends of the consolidation, which also was a monthly gap. So we've hit a monthly internal now, which is kind of peak. Now, if we're looking at the 3-month for like a potential 3-month internal, external, we'd still need to kind of chill down here for a while before price can really get going. But maybe we just bounce off the daily. So we finally, hit an end of that consolidation, which is awesome. One thing I will say is, like, if we go daily and we see already like these highs, which are probably around consequent encroachment of this range that we've now put in, looking at that low that we left today. So if we go maybe just dealing range, yeah, okay, they're slightly in premium, but they're around EQ. These highs right here, they're going to be cooked at some point. Like, that's a short-term target. And then also, like, just in general, everything here is like trendline liquidity, so this shit's gonna get fucked at some point. The question is, do we do it right away or not? And we'll see. Anyway, today, basically, what can we say for the day? We sold off overnight through Asia. Late in London, we get a retrace. We kind of tap into some stuff here, and then we flash lower at the 9 a.m. open and run into that monthly gap, and then from there we get a reversal higher, and we basically target this 4-hour internal up here, right? This gap, run into that, and then off that we kind of get like an end of day, back into the range, like a pullback. What can you say about that? Well, we're tapping this hourly bullish breaker now, but yeah, I mean, we're gonna probably open to next week, and then I don't think this hourly breaker will be like much of a I don't know. I think when we open next week, there's a good chance we rerun before we would potentially go higher, if we are gonna go higher. But yeah, I mean, that was basically the day. Now I'm gonna start this by looking through the lens of purely the macro model, and then afterwards I'm gonna go into the trade I took on my combines that was like purely, or not purely, but like more discretionary kind of a setup, kind of similar to the one I took on Thursday. But yeah, so basically, coming into the day, this was like London highs, right? And we like ran it by a tick here at 6:30, but like, to me this kind of is still relative equals. And anyway, when we broke down into here, I was looking for longs. The long setup that we got here, because we did have SMT were like high time frame. ES wasn't quite there. Also, ES hasn't even taken previous week low, right? So like we had big SMTs for longs. But yeah, the long setup just happened before anything else. Like, and by anything else, I mean like before the macro. So there was nothing to do there. Then 1050 macro, I was once again looking for a continuation. We had an SMT like this at this point. Now, the reason I'm marking out 11 a.m. and not 11:15 is because 11:15 is post macro. So yeah, but I was looking for a comp from this 15-minute, and we kind of got it, I'm gonna be honest. And yeah, we can get into that in a second when we drop down to the 1 minute. Let me just quickly do this for everything so it doesn't transpose to the 1 minute. Then the 1150 macro, I was once again more kind of looking for a continuation, potentially some sort of like consecutive SMT. We didn't get it. Price pushed higher, 1250. I was actually thinking about shorting after we tapped that 4-hour gap. But if I remember correctly, we did not quite get like the setup that I would have wanted to see. Which, yeah, basically, is part of what the whole day was. Like the whole day was like I wanted the longs here, didn't quite get the framework for the trade. I wanted the longs here, same thing. I wanted shorts here, same thing. A little unfortunate, right? But yeah, I mean, we can jump in. We have a really clean SMR down here, but as I mentioned, 947, so pre-macro. Then the first macro is just pure gas higher, nothing to trade there. 1050, we had come down into that 50-minute gap, and we had like SMT, as I mentioned, like to the 10 a.m. low, which would have been like this. And then technically, right, we have this breaker here. Yeah. I don't like this SMR one bit, I'm gonna be honest. And then we had a 5-minute that we rejected pretty hard here, right? This one. For me, at this point, I was in this trade initially, right away. Like, even though it was kind of the framework was nice. Then when this happened and we got the run back to break even, essentially, I just got out break even. Because I thought after this consolidation below the OB, these lows were going to get ran before we went higher. So yeah, I mean, I was right, I guess. It's kind of unfortunate here because like the idea of this running higher was super great. Like if you were to say this is your breaker, right? And then this is just a perfect run of like short-term consolidation, displacement, close above, and then we get tapped in here. But again, closes 11:28, tap in 11:32, so it has nothing to do with macro timings. But yeah, from there it just delivers like crazy. Here going into the 11:50 macro, I was like, maybe we can get like a run of this short-term low with some 50-minute consecutive and then get along. But yeah, we just don't do that, so nothing to do. And then as I mentioned, 12:50 macro, I was stalking shorts, to be honest, and this run below this up close candle didn't do it for me because there's no short-term high that we run here up to the left. So that's why I didn't take that. Then we ran the high here and we actually had consecutive candle SMT. So at this point I was like, all right, well, if we displace below this, I'm in here and I'm overly going, as the kids say. Then we reran this and I was like, okay, well, maybe all we need is to close below here, which we eventually do, but 4 minutes after the macro ends. And even though this is like hell on earth delivery wise, yeah, price does end up actually trading lower off of kind of this idea. So yeah, even like if you wanted to hyper aggressively take this as your OB, right? The close is still at 111, so it's still not valid. So yeah, it kind of stinks. And then obviously since it's Friday, I'm not looking for 150, but 150 really didn't have much of a setup either. There's some sort of like continuation short maybe. If you were really there for it. Let's see if that was anything off of 15-minute. 2 p.m. to 1:45 is a lower high, 2 p.m. to 1:45 is a lower high, 2 p.m. to 1:45 is a lower high. Yeah, all right. So it's lacking SMT. Other than that, it was great. Now, however, the trade I took on the Lucid Combines, which the only thing I'm mad about that trade is that I only took one contract because I was like, it was like a spur of the moment. Wait a second, let me take this. Open Lucid, and then I was like, it's this many points. I should have went 2. I would have been risking about about 300 on 2 contracts. Instead I went with 1, and then there was no opportunity to like add more. Yeah, if I had went with 2, I would have actually had a max win day off this one trade. But basically, this was the trade, right? We had, as I mentioned, that high time for SMT. We were approaching the macro, and I was like, you know what? We have all these clean targets with the London kind of like relative equals from back here. and we had these equal highs where ES was much more bullish. So like one of my frameworks for this trade was also like ES takes London, and then NQ takes these relative equals here, and then you know, we're in business to at least grab a few R. But yeah, instead we just ran. I think I held this really well. I mean, we bagged 5R. I just held to London highs. And yeah, as I mentioned, I only risked one contract. So 140. But since it went 350 points, I still made like 700 off that one contract. If I had taken two, the lucid counts would be like 200-300 away from being passed. So that was a little unfortunate that I didn't like spur of the moment go to. I think it was like, in my mind, when I look at 70 points, it's one con because of the top step combines where I'm trying to risk 100. And also, to be honest, I thought this trade was kind of a long shot. That also went through my head. Obviously, this decision was made in like 5 seconds, so it wasn't like, you know, super analyzed and thought through. But to me, this was kind of a long shot because, yeah, it's like the first 1 minute breaker after tapping a monthly gap. But it went, man. And yeah, to me, I also thought like, yeah, it might go, but if it does go, it's like a huge RR into London highs. So taking a smaller risk position and still getting a decently big win just off higher RR is cool. So yeah, that's kind of what I went with. So to recap, this week on Top Step on the Express accounts, one trade on Monday, one trade on Thursday. These weren't real trades. So one win, one loss, up 1R. But this week, the discrepancies of risk to, you know, risk from trade to trade favored the losing trade, right? Over the winning trade. So it doesn't quite look like up 1R, but technically I'm up 1R. Only 2 trades though. Fucking boring week. But whoa. Here we are. If we look at Lucid, there's at least some excitement. Which I guess we made some excitement with those trades. But yeah, as you can see, the accounts are now sitting at like 5,200-ish. Now I think executions probably already disappear. Yeah, they disappear right away after the day, which is kind of annoying. Where do I like, let me see. Reports? Position history? So yeah, as you can see here, bought at 476, sold at 2828. Here 702. Right. And yeah, took that on all my accounts. So yeah, I guess. Whoop. That's not the right button, apparently. So yeah, that's it. You know, that's all she wrote. Close to passing the Lucids now, and that'd be cool because then I have 4 extra Express accounts. which then I'll have to kind of see how I do it, because then technically I'd kind of be forced to, again, kind of trade both accounts simultaneously, which I kind of strayed away from because it wasn't working. But I honestly think it wasn't like because I was trading both accounts, it was just I happened to be doing that in a phase of price action being terrible. So like, of course, if the fucking, if the win rate's at like 30% for the time being of me doing that, then obviously it's not going to work out well. Whereas if the win rate has like a phase of like 60% to kind of equal out, or 70% to equal out that 30% that we had, maybe in August or September, that would be approaching for a few weeks, then it would be great if I'm copy trading everything. So, yeah, I don't want to blame the fact that like I had bad weeks on the fact that I was actually copy trading this, which I've kind of done in a way where I didn't blame it on it, but like I said I want to stop for a while. But yeah, I mean, I think just trading combines with like a little bit of a whatever the fuck works really well for me. Right? Like today, I mean, this wasn't a valid trade per my model, but like it's so clean. Sometimes you just got to do it. And then same thing for the short we took here yesterday off this, right? Yeah, I mean, I think this is kind of how I passed most of my top step accounts too in the background. When I already had a few that I was trading my main model with, I would just kind of, take the setups that I couldn't take with my main accounts because it was like an early close or whatever. So, I mean, technically this is my model. It's just not in the time of my model. And same with the 931 here, wherever it is. I went way too far. Same with the 931 here, where it's like we had SMT, we have a 1 minute breaker and stuff, but it's just not, it's not there quite there time wise. So yeah, W trades on the comments there, and I guess technically a winning week on the expresses, even though it's basically just break even because of the discrepancy between risk on my two trades, which that's the one disadvantage of trading very low risk, like dollar amount wise. Yeah, if you're trying to trade $100 risk per trade, you're so dependent on stop loss size that like if there's a 40-point stop, you're risking 80, whereas if there's a 55-point stop, you're risking 110. And then if you win the 80 risk trade 2 to 1 R, it's 160, and if you lose the other one, it's 110, and now you've only made $50. So, instead of 100, so you've essentially cut your profit in half, even in a way. But yeah, I mean, also then there's weeks where I've taken losses for like 75, and then the win was like 250. So, I guess it balances out, which over time it should be fine. And then as we stack the balance on these accounts and we can up our risk dollar wise, we get more of a fluidity in the fact of probably being able to stay closer to the desired risk. Like if I get these accounts to a 5K balance and I'm looking to risk 250 per trade, I think 250 per trade is much easier to stay close to than 100. Because like if it's 70 points, you'll risk 280. If it's 50 points, you risk 200 or 300. I guess 50 points is kind of ugly at that point, huh? Because you can't do 2.5. Yeah, I think it all kind of comes with its issues. I think like the GOAT is like if you risk a band using micros, because then it could be like 10 micros, or it could be like 7 or 2 or 3, just depending, and it's always close to a band. But I just got off topic. The recap for today is kind of boring in a way because like I didn't actually take a real trade. But yeah, the combine trade though, so which in a way it's also good. I think I went like what, plus 1100 on my combines this week, so that's nice. One more week like that and we can Yeah, double our Express accounts, which that's got to be good. I still have to see like if I want to trade the Lucid accounts when I pass them, maybe with a little higher risk tolerance. We'll see. We'll see how I do that. But yeah, peace.